Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on, to better explain what's going on, and talk about things that I think that are being done right and are done wrong. Here we go.
The information, audio, and visuals you are about to see are intended to provide details of an officer-involved shooting which occurred on March 18, 2023 at about 10:59 p.m. in the 900 block of White Lane. Conclusions about the officer's actions with regard to law and policy will not be made until the investigation is complete and all facts are known. This video may contain strong language and graphic images which may be disturbing to some people. Viewer discretion is advised. On March 18th at 10:21 p.m., the Bakersfield Police Department received a call for service regarding an adult male subject behaving erratically, armed with a knife in the parking lot of the shopping center in the 1500 block of White Lane. Dispatch also received an update that the subject was possibly attempting to light his own pants on fire. A 2-officer unit was dispatched to check the welfare of the subject and arrived on scene at 10:47 p.m. The responding officers attempted to make contact with the subject in the parking lot of the 1500 block of White Lane, however, he fled from them. Officers followed the subject in their vehicle in an effort to ascertain his behavior and the situation.
You got a knife, dude? You want to drop the knife? You want necesitas policía or no?
Policía?
Here. What was he lighting? Let's just make sure he doesn't go somewhere crazy, do anything, and then I'll cancel medically. Let's go make sure he's not terrorizing people or he's lying to himself.
Did you come to this burg? Mine Corona's burg? You know where the kids ran into the apartment complex there?
I don't remember.
Shit, oh.
Oh gosh. What's going on? What's he doing? I still want him terrorizing people. What is he doing? Is he going up to someone?
Officers observed the subject involved in an altercation at the Fast Trip located at 6401 South H Street before fleeing back to the shopping center in the 1500 block of White Lane. Officers attempted to recontact the subject, who was observed holding what they believed to be a knife in the 1500 block of White Lane. This body camera footage shows this attempted contact, the failed deployment of a taser device, a foot pursuit for approximately half a mile, and a portion of events leading to the officer-involved shooting.
Oh god. What's he got in his fucking hand? Hey, dude, stop running, dude! Oh god. Here's come off over there.
College Oswell, 6 X-ray clean Lincoln 646. On that tan Chevy.
Hey, come here, you're gonna get fucking tags, dude, stop! Stop! we got one armor of the night running eastbound towards right lane. Put it out. I don't think it went out. I got it.
What about like 3?
Started putting it over to Civic.
I'm gonna keep lethal.
And on your ID?
One by three. The soldier's running in and out of the roadway. Leave me going eastbound on white lane.
Running in and out of the roadway going eastbound.
Don't fucking go in that residence! Hey, get out of the road! Make some police, man! Stop running! Stand me up, black jacket. Black boots. Hey, don't get hurt, dude! 1-5 for information. E-242 several people in the front strip parking lot. He's possibly 450. Still eastbound, that's monitor. You're running in the westbound lanes. You're running eastbound the westbound lanes. Hey, dude, don't get too close to him! He's not responding south. He's gonna be in the eastbound lanes. In front of him. Subject in the bike, he's not involved.
You're covered tonight.
193-998. Running eastbound still. You're responding east. You're in the crossfire. Stop.
You're responding east, you're in the crossfire.
153. We're gonna be out white lane and monitor. Subject's down. Expedite medically again the station.
The following body camera is from the assisting officer who responded to the scene and discharged his firearm. The assisting officer had a community member ride along who witnessed the use of force.
Watching monitor.
You're running in the westbound lane. You're running eastbound the westbound lane.
Westbound.
For this, I'm gonna have you stay in the car, alright? Because he has a knife.
You're responding south. It's gonna be the eastbound lane. It's the car, come.
What's out two with him?
So I'm almost with you.
Let me see your fucking hands! Right now! On the fucking ground! On the fucking ground!
You're covered tonight.
998, 998. Let me see you! Get on the ground! 1 South 2998. Get on the ground! On the ground!
The following is the same body camera footage played at a slower speed. Medical aid was requested immediately, and officers performed first aid on the suspect, who succumbed to his injuries at the scene. What had been described as a knife was determined to be a screwdriver. This is an ongoing investigation. Citing Assembly Bill 1506, the California Department of Justice is also investigating. Conclusions about the involved officers' actions with regard to law and policy will not be made until all facts are known and the
All right. So, I guess 3 main things to talk about. One, their interaction with him in the very beginning of this incident. I think that's important to talk about. The chase is something else to talk about. The officer who had a ride along, that's something to talk about. And then the force used is something to talk about. So a few talking points that we'll also have some other things, that lead off of that. But those are kind of the main ones that I want to hit. So, recap, they go to this call involving a guy with a knife who's behaving erratically in a shopping center, and there's also a report of him trying to light his pants on fire. So 2-officer unit was dispatched to go check the welfare of this person, and he obviously doesn't want to be checked on.
officers followed the subject in their vehicle in an effort to
So in the very beginning, there is no audio because the camera is in buffer mode. Personally, I think that before you go to get out of the car, you should be hitting that camera and turning it on to record, because as you're getting out of the vehicle, boom, something could happen and you may not have time to activate that camera. So I think the best practice is to have it on and recording before you ever get out the car. As they were arriving on scene, I think that is the more appropriate time to hit record on that camera, because you might not even have the ability to get out of the car before, boom, something happens. I think it's always best to hit that record button a lot sooner. That way, if something critical happens, it's already on, it's already recording, you're already collecting evidence at that point that could help exonerate you, and it's one less thing you have to worry about. When something critical happens, something critical could happen, and you could forget to turn that camera on, and you could lose the opportunity to record exonerating evidence, things that could help speed along the investigation that would clear your name. He's got some kind of stuffed animal in the dashboard. I don't know what the hell that is. I think it's kind of stupid looking. I mean, stuffed animals is something that can be kept in the vehicle to be given out to kids, like little small children. It's just something, for them to be able to latch onto and have a more positive interaction with police, because sometimes, police have to arrest parents, and that's not always the greatest sight. That's not always the greatest impression to be leaving with little children. Like, hey, little one, yeah, we're going to take mommy to jail. See ya, bye. So some agencies will give officers little stuffed animals they keep in their cars to be able to give out to little children when they come into contact with their parents like that, or just when they come into contact with children in general. Or they'll have like a roll of stickers, little junior police badge sticker or something to give to a kid. Something to, like I said, leave a positive light in that kid's head when they interacted with police. Because there's so many parents who are like, well, if you don't act good, I'm going to call the police. They're going to take you to jail. And so there's a lot of households where the police are kind of referred to and regarded as like the boogeyman. And a stuffed animal is a great way to kind of break that barrier, so to speak, and show the kids like, hey, police aren't bad. Sometimes, missing kids, they get lost, and it's, that's a comfort thing. Like, they're used to a stuffed animal at home. Kid could be not just the missing kid, but something, something happened to mommy or daddy, a car wreck or something like that, or a medical emergency, whatever. Like, anything could be going on, and just the simple stuffed animal could help a little kid. Now, is this little stuffed animal up there for a quick deployment to a little kid? I don't think so. I think this is like some personal thing that this guy's carrying around with him. I don't get it. I really don't. Some people are into like little trinket things like that. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I think it's goofy as shit. But it's not like it's harming anything being there, other than if the airbag deploys and now this little stuffed animal is going to launch into his fucking face. But then again, it's also going to launch that computer as well. But yeah, just something kind of goofy to be looking at, I think. Or just goofy to have there.
You got a knife, dude? You want to drop the knife? You want necesitas policía or no? Here.
So this first interaction here, they get out, make contact with him, and he kind of, I guess you could say, he kind of gives the guy an order to drop the knife. Obviously, he doesn't follow it and he keeps walking away. This is a bad interaction, in my opinion. They've gotten reports that this guy's doing some crazy shit, walking around with a knife, trying to set himself on fire, causing problems with people. So they're there to investigate to see what's going on, and they let this guy go. What if the group of people that this guy went up to, what if he stabbed one of them with the screwdriver? I think that liability could be pushed back towards these officers because they failed to do their job in this scenario. When they're getting out to make contact with someone, it's not like a, hey, buddy, what do you think about the weather today? Like, yeah, some of these things start off as like consensual conversations, but there's a reason why the police are getting out with someone. It's not just to talk about the fucking weather. The police are there to be the police, and unfortunately, so many places, the police just aren't acting like the police anymore. It's like they're too fucking afraid to do their damn job. And this is kind of one of those situations. Like, why did they not pursue this matter? Why did they not press the issue and go to this guy and say, hey, fucking stop, I'm talking to you? Why? Why did they not do that? Why did they just let him walk away like that? I think they should have pressed the issue. I think they should have went and attempted to make this guy stop. Would it have turned into a shooting at that point? there's a good possibility he could have, turned and raised that screwdriver at him, whatever. It still could have turned into a foot chase. He still could have ran the half mile that he ran trying to chase this guy down. Or it may not have went that far because they were so close to this guy that they could have gotten close enough to deploy taser, achieve the desired effect with that, and then take this guy into custody with no issues. So I think they dropped the ball when they just let this dude walk away. And it seems like that was their intention, just kind of get there. Like, they had to go to this call, clear this call. They get there, like, oh, well, nothing's really going on. We ain't going to mess with this guy. We'll go back in service, blah, blah, blah. Bad policing, in my opinion. So they want to stay in the area long enough to make sure he's not doing anything stupid. And so that makes me wonder, if they did not see him do anything egregious or stupid, would they have just cleared the call and completely left? I don't know. The possibility exists because they did not appear to be very motivated in making full contact with this person and going from there. So these people are lucky, or the officers are lucky, that this guy didn't decide to stab one of them. So these people are just, like, they're living their normal life. Like, to my knowledge, they have nothing to do with this guy. They're just outside this business, and this dude comes up and acts the way he does towards them. And you have to think about you as an armed citizen. Wherever you may be out in public, some random-ass crazy person could come up with a deadly physical weapon. You just never know. So this is why you should always have your gun on you. Not sitting in your glove box, not sitting in your center console, not under your seat, not in the trunk of your car. It needs to be on you. You need to be able to respond at moment's notice to deadly physical threats. And this is a great example of that. Had this guy attempted to stab one of them, would they have had the means to protect themselves? Probably not. I don't think any of them were armed. He could have seriously injured and or killed one of them. So at this point, in the beginning of the interaction, it's reported the guy has a knife. They see something when they first try to make contact with him, and they believe it's a knife. And so they go to make second contact with him again, and neither of them get a rifle out. That's a problem. So they are knowingly dealing with a person who has a deadly physical weapon. A rifle needs to be coming out at that point. So that's another failure right there. And that ends up being one of my chief complaints when it comes to videos like this. Officers neglecting to get rifles out when they need to be getting them out. High-risk calls means that you need to be getting a long gun out, because a long gun is going to be the better tool to use in a deadly force altercation. Pay attention to the taser right here. Oh, let me back it up, so I'm sorry. Alright, see that one more time. Watch his hand. One more time. Watch the taser. Alright, so that jerking motion that he does, like he's flipping it to its side. So that's a Taser 7, and the Taser 7 can accept 2 cartridges, meaning you can fire this taser 2 times. One cartridge is set up for close range, and the other cartridge can be set up for long range. And the quick tilting of the gun like that, the taser gun can sense that movement And when you do that, it switches from bay 1 to bay 2. That way, so if you pull your taser out of your holster and you flick the safety off, it's automatically going to be set to fire from bay 1. And so you may have a close range cartridge in bay 1. And you may have a longer range cartridge in bay 2. So if someone's a little bit further away and you want to be able to fire that cartridge, well, with the Taser 7, all you got to do is do a fast tilting motion, and it'll automatically switch the gun from bay 1 to bay 2. And then when you pull the trigger and fire, it fires that second cartridge. So that's a really cool feature for the Taser 7. Now, not everyone sets their tasers up like that. Some places will still just use the short-range cartridges in both bays. But if you ever see people doing this to a taser, that's what they're doing. They're making it switch from one bay to the other.
What do I do? We got one armor, then I keep running eastbound towards right lane.
So obviously it had no desired effect. I would say that most likely he missed him. He may have got one probe in him, but the other one probably missed. And there's a really good possibility that both of them missed.
Put it out. I don't think it went out. I got it.
What about like 3?
Skip.
And on your ID?
So now this is the part where like all these super pro physical standards people will come out and say, see, there's a reason why you need to be able to run 1.5 miles. You might get into a half-mile pursuit with somebody. There's our proof. There's the justification for this stupid-ass requirement. Yeah, this is not normal. Like, this does not go on in everyday police work. Like, people are not being fucking chased for a half mile to a mile. Am I saying it never happens? No, I'm not saying it never happens. But it's just not normal for a foot chase to last that long. But there are people out there who will harp on this and say that all officers need to be able to run 1 mile, run 2 miles, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, yeah, it's not really happening. Like, I don't necessarily see the point in that one. But I'm sure there's people who are like copying this and, screenshotting and like, here we go, boys, here's our justification. Let's bump these requirements up to running 4 miles. Yeah. So now they're running down the street at night, and that presents a safety problem for them. They could be easily hit by a vehicle. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but there is a product, Guardian Light, I believe it's called. It attaches to your shoulder epaulette, and it's got a little string of LED lights going all the way around it, and it has a few different features you can activate. It has like one white light that you can press and for like reading purposes, and then you press another button and it makes the back of that light flash, and you can have it come in different colors: blue, red, amber, clear, green, or you can make it to where it flashes 360. So a device like that would be very beneficial in a scenario like this as a safety beacon to mark your position and make yourself more visible to motorists. Now, of course, a flashlight still works, but that now means that you're having to have a flashlight in one hand, and that could impede your ability or affect your ability to be able to go quickly 2 hands on your fighting weapon. So this would be a great scenario for that Guardian Light product. Since they're starting out on one side of the road, another thing that they could be doing is taking their patrol lights, if they have a strobe function, activating that strobe function and leaving it in their either their D-ring or if they have a actual holder on their belt that's towards the back, stick that light back in there. That light will be strobing behind them, so if they're running down this portion of the road where the cars will be behind them, that could help make them more visible to the motorists behind them. Now, obviously, when they start crossing the road or the median here and get into oncoming traffic, that strobing light behind them isn't going to be visible to the vehicles in front of them. So that's where the flashlight coming out to the front would be beneficial to warn those motorists, like, hey, there's something in the roadway here. There's a big, super fast flashing light. Get your attention real quick. So that is a benefit to a strobe light or a strobe function on a light, is just for signaling purposes. I don't necessarily see a use in a strobe light for like tactical purposes, using it against people. I just don't think it works like that very well, like a person thinks it's going to work in their head. It's more beneficial, in my opinion, for a strobe function to be used for signaling purposes. And in this purpose, it can work pretty good because it's something that other motorists will pick up on real quick and start paying attention to things. The guy himself is lucky that he didn't get hit by a passing motorist. There's another video that I want to do, haven't got to it yet. I think it's in Pennsylvania. Officers make a traffic stop. Actually, not even a traffic stop. He's like parked on the side of the road, but they go to make contact with him, and he takes off on. Actually, he takes off in his car, and he crashes, and he gets out on foot and starts running across the interstate, and gets plowed by another vehicle. So the suspect himself is lucky that his ass didn't get hit because he was wearing darker clothing. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes the people run from the police and then they get hit by another car. That's true justice right there. That's karma. But yeah, this officer ran a whole half mile, or maybe up to a half mile or over half a mile. I don't know how far he ran, but he ran quite a bit. That's a lot of running to do, and that's definitely going to get your heart rate up, and you're gonna be smoked at that point. Like you're gonna be feeling it. And had this other officer not got out from the vehicle and engaged in that fight, what if for whatever reason this dude decided to stop and then start fighting this officer? This officer who just ran almost a Mogadishu mile, he's not going to be as an effective fighter as he would have been at the very beginning of this, because he has ran so far. Now that right there is the only justification I can see to having a physical standard of running a mile or something like that in so many minutes. Is it would allow the more plausibility of a person being in a good enough physical shape that their endurance would be up, their stamina would be up to where they would be able to continue a fight if they were this physically exerted at this point. Because there are some people who would not be able to fight after this. Like they would be so winded, so gassed that they wouldn't have any fuel left in the tank to push on a fight. And it happens. As far as being, gassed and everything, like you get wore out. Like it can be hard to press that fight on. You're just not as effective as you were before all that physical exertion. So there is a need for having some physical fitness, but having like marathon, like having these requirements in place to where you basically attract nothing but a bunch of fucking marathon runners, like that's, again, like that's not normal stuff. Like you're not chasing people down on foot for a mile or 2 miles. So I think some of that stuff can not be so heavily looked on or desired. All right, so this officer here has a ride-along with him. And a ride-along, you know, there's different reasons why people would be riding with an officer. It could be an explorer. So an explorer is a person who is between the ages of, I think it's maybe 13, or it could be 12. I think you got to be middle school to high school age. You can actually be over 18 and still be an explorer in some places, I think. But an explorer program or an explorer post is actually a part of the Boy Scouts, if I remember correctly. And they are people who want to become police officers when they become of an eligible age. And the police explorers will have meetings every month. They have uniforms that they wear. They go through training scenarios. They learn about the job. They learn about different things as far as stuff goes with police work. They may even be utilized for traffic control things, for like special events, like a Christmas parade or something like that. They'll put some explorers at an intersection and give them traffic cones and vests and stuff, and like, all right, tell people they can't drive down this road. And so they'll serve a little function like that. They can go to competitions. There's actually explorer competitions they can go to, where they go through reality-based scenarios, and they have to, perform just like an officer would, just in a training environment. So it's a pretty cool, neat program. I did explore many years ago when I was in high school. Pretty cool program. So it could be an explorer that he has with him, and they're just out on a ride along watching what's going on. It could be their wife. A lot of officers will have their wives ride with them every once in a while. It could be a family member riding with them. It could be someone who is interested in being in the police, and they were encouraged to go take a ride along to see what it's like. It could be someone from a citizens police academy, which is kind of like, it's almost similar to an explorer post. They just don't get so involved with like wearing uniforms and stuff. But they meet like once a month for 3 or 4 months or something like that. Or maybe they meet 2 times a month for 3 or 4 months, and they learn about all the different aspects of police work and how that agency operates, and then they go on ride-alongs and stuff like that. It could be someone from another town who's visiting and wants to be ride along with this agency, whatever. There's all kinds of different reasons for why someone would be riding along with an officer. And for an officer to have a ride along, there's some things they have to think about. The safety of that person. So they have to make a decision on whether or not they're going to say, hey, it's okay for you to get out of the car and come with me while I do this stuff, or they have to say, hey, this ain't safe enough for you to get out of the car, stay here. And so people on ride-alongs, they could get out during a domestic dispute call and go with the officer and watch what's happening. They could get out on a traffic stop and kind of hang around near that vehicle and watch what's going on. And then there's other calls where the officer says, don't get out of the car, stay in the car. And they literally just sit there and look out the windows and watch what's going on from the confines of the vehicle. So this officer, I think, made the right call because this person's armed with a knife, armed with a deadly physical weapon. That person in that passenger seat is not likely to be armed. I think all agencies who do ride-alongs have a policy that says you are not supposed to be carrying guns. So that person would not have had a way to defend themselves if that person attacked. Now, there are a lot of officers who do ride-alongs, and they will make a judgment call based on who the rider is, and they may tell them, hey, I have a backup gun in the glove box, or hey, I have a backup gun here. If something happens and I go down, this is where it's at. Or hey, this is the button you press to make this lock on this rifle disengage. Press this button, you can get the rifle out. Or, they may even point out, hey, this little orange button right here on the radio, if something bad happens, press that button. So it's going to depend on the rider, how much information you tell them, and especially with the gun stuff, and what you think their competency level is if something begins to happen. Because there's some people you may not just want to tell them, like, hey, there's a gun right here. If something happens, get it. There's some people you don't want to know that, because you don't want them grabbing a gun. They're kind of a liability with a gun at that point. Not all people who do ride-alongs are, having their head on their shoulder right. So there's a lot of responsibility that goes into managing a ride-along. Let me play the shooting part.
Right now! On the fucking ground! On the fucking ground!
You're covered tonight.
998, 998. Let me see you! Get on the ground! 1 South 2998. Get on the ground! Get on the ground! On the fucking ground! On the fucking ground!
You're covered tonight.
998, 998. Let me see you! Get on the ground! 1 South 2998. Fucking ground! On the fucking ground!
You're covered tonight.
998, 998. Let me see you! Get on the ground!
Alright, so it sounded like to me he fired somewhere around 11 or 12 times at this guy. Out of those 11 or 12 rounds, how many rounds actually hit the target? I don't know. I would suspect that out of all the rounds he fired, not every single one hit the intended target or hit him. I would say that there were some misses involved in shooting at this guy. So this guy, or this officer, has responded to this call knowing some of the same things that these other officers knew. He knew that this is a person reported to be with a weapon, and that he's running from the police, and he's armed with a knife. So that officer, this officer here, I think, should have had his rifle ready before ever getting there. Just like one of the other officers in that two-man car should have had the rifle out and ready to deal with a person with a deadly physical weapon. I think the best thing to do when going to a call that's involving a deadly physical weapon, or it's a high-risk kind of call, is to stop, get the rifle out, danger it up, and then proceed to the call. That way, when you get there, your rifle is ready to go. You can dismount from the vehicle, rifle in hand, ready to go. Otherwise, if you keep it in a mount or in the trunk, and then you get on scene, you may not ever have time to get that thing out. Just like now. He got out of the car, boom, things are happening. He wouldn't have had time to go to the trunk of his car and get that rifle out. He wouldn't have had time to get that thing out of the mount and then go deal with this guy. It's too fluid at that point. Too quick. So the best thing is to get it out before ever getting on scene. Get the rifle out, put the sling around your neck, charge the handle, turn the sight on, take off the dust caps for the sights if you have any. Have that thing ready to go. Have it slung around your neck, muzzle and barrel dangling between your legs, and then proceed to the scene like that. And then literally, as you get on scene and you get out of the car, you got this rifle to the front of you. It's on you, it's ready to go. That is the best way to do it. Had he done that, had he got out with the rifle in hand, the first few shots right in here would have had the desired effect. He would have put this guy down. He would have immediately stopped the threat. He would have caused immediate physical incapacitation with rifle hits on this person. There is a huge night and day difference between the terminal ballistics of a pistol and a rifle. That is why rifles are preferred for deadly physical fights. They just dominate. All pistol calibers suck. I don't care what caliber you have. 9, 40, 45, 357. They all suck in comparison to rifle. He's using a pistol, and like I said, it doesn't matter what caliber he has. He could be having 45, right? Like, there's some people who think that one hit from a 45 will, like, vaporize a person. But, whatever your magical pistol round is, if you're a 45 person, if you're a 40 person, whatever, he could have had this. Same shit would have happened. Pistol ammunition just sucks. And so shot placement is very, 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 very important for pistols. It's still important for rifle, but even more for pistol, because even if you hit non-critical areas on a person with a pistol, they're still going to be agile and maneuverable and keep on going. People can still be like that after being hit with rifle, but a rifle round hits so much harder and dumps so much more energy into a person that you can hit a non-critical area on a person with a rifle and it takes them down. Like, it's boom. Like, it's a noticeable difference. So shot placement is very key. Where his rounds were hitting, I don't know. But the rounds that did hit this guy initially were not immediately physically incapacitating. This guy is still moving around. He is still able to stand and sprint and hold this thing. He's still capable of fighting. He is still a capable, deadly physical threat at this point. And he's been fired at least 11 to 12 times by this officer.
998, 998. Let me see you! Get on the ground! 1 South 2998. Get on the ground!
So I'd say after that second string of fire, when he turned and came towards the officer, you could see a very noticeable reaction from this guy. Like, you knew for sure those first 3 rounds in that second string, the dude was getting hit. You see him recoil from the pain of the bullets entering his body. And then he continues to run until he gets to this point. And I think at this point, the effect of the rounds is starting to take effect. I think he is starting to lose enough blood, experience enough pain that he is not able to continue sprinting away like he is. He is starting to succumb to those injuries. It's a slow take, but that's what you get with pistol. You get a slowed reaction a lot of times when it comes to utilizing pistol caliber ammunition against people. Like I said, that first string of fire at the very beginning, if this officer had a rifle, it would have been a drastic difference. The dude would have dropped right there and would not have gone any further than what he did. Even though the guy is still sitting on the ground, he's not that mobile, he still has this weapon in his hand. So he's still physically able to be fighting at this point. I think he might be going into a bit of a state of mental incapacitation. Like, he has been shot and he's feeling it. He's no longer fully wanting to play these games. But it's hard to tell for sure because they cut the video
The
short.
following is the same.
And you don't get to see a whole lot after this point. I don't know how long he stayed in this kind of position. I don't know if he ended up falling backwards after this, if it went on for a couple more minutes. I have no idea. But he's still holding this weapon. He's still a deadly physical threat. It's not like he can just go up and start putting cuffs on this guy because he still has an edged or he has a deadly weapon or a deadly instrument. So if this guy was sitting there for a couple more minutes still holding this thing, then I think that more force could be used against him. Maybe not necessarily deadly physical force, but definitely, a less lethal weapon. Firing taser into him, hitting with pepper spray or something to get him to comply with dropping that weapon so that you can actually go hands-on with him. Sometimes I've seen where people just kind of stand there and yell and yell and yell and yell and yell and yell, and nothing happens. They don't get the desired effect. So there's just because someone's been shot with a gun, it doesn't mean you can't then go use other means of force against a person. You most certainly can, and you most certainly should use other forms of force to gain that compliance and take a person into custody. So they worded it, what was described as a knife was determined to be a screwdriver. I don't think that this being a screwdriver makes it any less dangerous than a knife. Of course, a knife is a more effective, deadly instrument. It does a better job of causing injuries and potentially causing death, but it's not necessarily devoid, or this screwdriver is not necessarily devoid of any of that capability. This thing can still very well kill a person very easily. You can stab someone through the eye with this thing, and they're good chance they're going to die from it. You could press this into someone's chest cavity, pierce through and hit the heart, and still kill them. Will it cut like a knife? No, it doesn't really have a sharp edge to it, but it can still puncture a person's body. And therefore, because of its length and its ability to puncture the human body, it's still a deadly instrument. It can still kill people. So not a big fan of how they worded that. I don't know. Could just be my interpretation of it. But still a deadly instrument nonetheless. All right. That's it. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.